Hello, good evening, good morning, and wherever you might be, good afternoon in some places of the world. Hello. Hang on, I think I've got some problems with the audio. That doesn't sound good. Hang on just a second. Hello. Oh, that sounds horrendous. Hang on. I know my audio sucks. I'm not quite sure why. It shouldn't do. Let me just do a couple of tests. Bear with me. Yeah, I know audio crackle. Hopefully I've fixed that, but yeah, I know audio's bad. I know. Yeah, I know audio crackle. Hopefully I've fixed that, but yeah, okay, there we go. I think I got it. Let me just set up my other laptop, folks, so that if I'm screen sharing, which we might be, I suppose, at some point, I can monitor the broadcast on my laptop over here. Give me 1 second to do that. We should be good in just a second. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I just had to reset the mic input on Google Hangouts. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Not a great start. But we will be getting underway in just a few minutes. Wow, 10 people here already. Good grief. Crazy. Let's give me a second. Make sure that skips ahead to live. Okay, I'll close that tab as well. Give it a little bit of extra speed. Alrighty, okay. we can actually start now. Right, yes, audio was bad and now hopefully sounds much better. Mike says sounds good. Well, that's good. And Jamin J is here and he says that's good. Awesome. So, wow, we've got 11 people in the room already, and I only announced this 45 minutes ago, mostly because I was too busy doing other stuff and I completely forgot, not about the stream, but I completely forgot to actually let you guys know that I was doing it. But really, to be honest, this stream happens every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Central Time, mostly regardless. You know, I would pretty much, I mean, yes, I put an announcement out to say, hey, the broadcast is happening, but generally speaking, you can pretty much safely assume it is going to happen unless I put something up that says it isn't going to happen. So you're covered either way. So yeah, so there we go. So hopefully the audio is all fixed. I know picture doesn't look too bad at the moment, which is good. It's going to be, you know what it is with my internet. So let's see who we got here. 12 people here already. Chris is here. Good to see you. Jamin J, Mike Neighbor, my good friend, is here. Stephen Greenwood is here. Beatrice Dewberry is here. Good to see you, my dear. And Bobby Booth, the ever-present Bobby Booth. No stream would be complete without his presence, so I'm very glad to have you here, Bobby. And my other good friend, Just Bob, is here. He says, dropping in, say hi, out and about with my wife, try to catch in about 20 minutes or so. Awesome. Jammy G says, I'm in the studio and my phone dings, Johnny Live. Yeah, well, that's good to know. That's good to know that the notifications are going out. That's great. So I'm very pleased about that. Because sometimes, you know what it's like, YouTube, I love YouTube, but sometimes it's not necessarily most wonderfully reliable. So, but yeah, that said, most of the time it is. So anyway, I have had the most incredibly busy week this week. So I have not had really a second to stop and think about what we're going to talk about in tonight's stream. So really, I'm opening this stream entirely to you guys. Not that I'm being lazy, because I try and at least have something to talk about. But yeah, I basically want to open this stream so that we've got about an hour-ish, 45, 50 minutes where I can just deal with your questions and things that you guys want me to talk about. So your questions probably ought to be, seeing as this is Jonny Lipsham Studios, ought to be related to music production. So whichever end or whichever part of the whole production line, I guess, whichever part of it is that you want to talk about, whether it's you know, pre-production, songwriting, recording, mixing, mastering, arranging. You know, arranging a song is just as important as writing the song. A bad arrangement of a good song can kill the song, just as sometimes a really great arrangement of a terrible song can rescue it. And actually, a lot of times, popular music hits really, really awful songs, but the arrangement is so good that it just makes the song really catchy. So there's that. So, you know, as much as I think the song is the most important thing, the song has to be good. If the song is not good, doesn't matter where you go on that production line, all the way down to you know, digital release or CD release or whatever it is you're going to do with your final output. The important thing is to start with a good song, because if you have a good song, then you're hopefully going to get really good recordings of your session musicians, your instrumentation, whatever it is that you've got for that particular song. And good recordings will make mixing a lot easier. So spend as much time as you can in the songwriting phase, the arranging phase, and the recording phase. And make that about, you know, a good 75% of the time it takes to actually go from start to finish, to actually releasing it. That would be, okay, there we go. There's my talking point right there. Yeah, making sure that the song is really good, the arrangement is really good, and then hopefully that will enable you to capture really good recordings, because people will be inspired by a really good song. People will be inspired by a really good arrangement of a really good song. And then, you know, that makes editing a lot easier. If you've got a good arrangement, it makes editing a lot easier, because then you don't actually need to spend a lot of time chopping things up and putting things into place to make the arrangement happen. You know, you've already got those ideas baked into the song itself. And, you know, and then of course that makes the mixing process a lot easier, because then you'll need to use less plugins. Good recordings, less plugins. Less plugins means less mixing time, which means you can finish up your mix a lot quicker. You can get to mastering, and then of course, you know, a really, really, really good mix makes a really good master. So there you go. That's kind of my talking point. So yeah, have a think about those things, and, you know, see if we can bounce some questions out of that. Robert Overbeek is here. Good to see you, Robert. Thanks for coming. He says, I'm told frequently that I should use an external drive for Studio One 3.5. Is there any truth in this? If so, why, and what should be put on it? That is a great question, and Mike agrees with me. It is a great question. So here it is from my point of view, and some people may or may not disagree with this, and that's okay. We can turn this into a discussion point if required. So here's what I think. The actual application of Studio One, the actual app, should go on your system drive. So the actual programs of Studio One should go on your system drive, your C drive. Okay? Where all of your other programs are. So where Microsoft Office is, if you have that, or any other pieces of software. Software goes on your system drive. Now, here's where the external drive bit comes in. It's generally speaking a very good idea to record to an external drive. So when you open your song, if it's a brand new song, what you should do is you should set that song to save to a folder on an external drive. And here's the reason. If you're doing it to your system drive is supposed to be dedicated to looking after your system and managing your system effectively. So that's looking after the OS. That's looking after whatever applications are running and keeping them running and, you know, maintaining that side of things. Now, if you're constantly reading and writing to and from the same drive, you can create a bottleneck. And when that happens, it can create a traffic jam of data, and bits and pieces of data can get lost, which means a song can get corrupted, or a song might not record properly. You might lose a track or two, or, you know, maybe the song just eventually just will not open. And you put your system drive under a lot of pressure, which then puts your RAM under a lot of pressure and your CPU under a lot of pressure. You don't really want that. So this is why I suggest and heartily recommend that you record to a separate external drive, because that means your external drive is managing the song and all the audio files, all of the image data, all the caching, all of that is taken care of by your external drive. And that means your system drive is only running the application. Deirdre says, you want to create a file for the song itself though, right? Yes. When you create a new song, maybe I need to go into Studio One and just kind of quickly demo this. So let me just make way for that. Let's go. And I'll just quickly open Studio One. And this is something that we could actually show. So you're going to have to give me just a minute for Studio One to get going, because I only have 8 gigs of RAM on this computer, guys. So, and I'm live streaming, and so I've got Chrome open. Okay, so let's go back to Google Hangouts. Let's go to share screen. I want to share my entire screen. So let's go share. And then I minimize that so that is not on the screen. And in a second, guys, you should be able to see Studio One. So let's see if we can actually make this happen. And I will show you how to go about making sure that this works for you. All right, you guys can now see Studio One. That's good. I'm on a delay, so you probably have already been able to see Studio One for the last 10 seconds. My laptop is probably on a 15-second delay. Let me just straighten the view up so I can see it a bit better. All right, so let's go to Create New Song. When this dialog box comes open, see, I have this defaulted to :songs/songs. So song is my folder. And within that folder, I have another folder called songs. I know that's a little bit weird, but that's just how I like to manage things. I like to put folders within folders. It just makes organizing things for me a little bit easier, because I might have :songs/videos, for example, which is where all of my my screen capture videos would go. Oh, Mike's just posted a new video. Awesome, Mike. We will all have to go and see this when we finish the stream. Mike's videos are really, really good, guys. So I wholeheartedly recommend you go and check those out. All right, so if you have this set to your system drive, so C:, I don't know what this is in Mac language, by the way, but I'm sure it's fairly similar. If you have this set to C:, then your song is going to be created and written to your system drive. But make sure, if you've got an external drive, that you select that. Now, if currently it defaults to C:, If you want to change that, you click this button here with the 3 dots. This is your browse button. And then it gives you this option here. So computer storage, D:, you can change that to whatever you want it to be. You can, there's all my drives. I can save it to any of those pretty much. And so this is my D drive. There's my songs folder. There's songs. Okay, so any of my my new songs that are used for demonstration purposes, that's where they're all kept. Okay, so that's kind of like the chain, and that's how I recommend you have it set up. This is the OS drive. This is the C: drive. I do not want to write my songs here. I want to write it to this drive. This is my second internal drive. This is my audio drive. And then this one here, my Western Digital Elements drive, my K drive, that is my backup drive. It's a 2 terabit backup drive. And so all of my videos that I make for YouTube and for my courses that I create, like MIDI drums made easy that I did with Dave Vignola, all of those are backed up onto this drive, so that if anything happens to my computer for any reason, touch wood, that's not going to happen, boink boink, that's not going to happen, I can retrieve them from here. And all of my songs created for clients, I do a monthly, I should probably do it weekly, but I do a monthly backup of my D drive where I just copy it to my K drive. And that's that archive sits in a separate folder, dated, so that whatever happens to the computer, I can always go and get those files, and I'm not going to end up with very unhappy clients. So I'm going to cancel out of that, but that's how you set that up, and it's dead easy. And you should then be able to just have that default. So whatever song you're working on, as you can see, I've got loads and loads and loads and loads that I've been working on in the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, working on lots of stuff at the moment. So I have them all saved to my D: drive. So I hope that helps you, Robert and Beatrice. And basically Studio One sets it all up itself. So if I was to hit OK, that folder is now instantaneously created. And inside that folder, you will find the media folder, the cache folder, as well as the song executable itself with this particular song title to it. So I could go and create a whole bunch of channels, create a whole bunch of audio, and all of that is written to that folder on my external drive. So my internal system drive is not having to do any heavy writing work as well as reading at the same time, because every time you have an application open, the system is reading that application to keep it running. And of course, it's constantly sourcing the OS to keep the OS running. So those are pretty, intense activities. And if you add to that constantly writing new stuff and reading, because every time you record something, let's say I record a vocal, and then, let's say I record a piano part, and then I record a guitar part, then I record a vocal part. I want to be able to hear each one of those tracks, which means those tracks are going to be streaming from my system drive into Studio One for playback, and I'm going to be writing my vocal track to that same drive at the same time, whilst it's having to do everything else. So that's where the issues can occur, and that's where Studio One can actually end up slowing down, and you can get distortions, dropouts, clicks, pops, the works. And a lot of people, when they're going, hey, this is I've got all of these dropouts happening in Studio One, there are bugs aplenty in Studio One. No, there aren't. Check your file management first. If you're doing it correctly, then with an external drive or a secondary internal drive, and the other important thing to remember here is that your secondary drive, whether that's an internal one or an external one, needs to be fast. It could be an one of those SSD drives, which is super fast, or it could be just a regular drive that spins at 7,200 revs per, I think it's per minute or per second. I can't remember which it is. So hopefully that will sort you out there, Robert. And you say that is awesome, looks easy. So long as external drive is connected to Studio One, will automatically find it. So long as it's connected to your computer. If it's connected via USB to your computer, when your computer starts up, it recognizes all of your drives. Studio One will also automatically recognize your drive because it is accessing those drives. So that should work for you very nicely. And Beatrice, I hope that has answered your aspect of Robert's question as well. So there you go. Hope that works for you guys. I'm going to stop sharing, but I will keep Studio One open just in case we need to reference it for any other questions that we might have going on. And I'm going to go back to the stream on the main computer. And I can see you guys. I just need to move that over that way. And down a bit. There we go. Yeah, 7200 is best for audio, says Skip. Good to see you, Skip. Thanks for coming onto my show. That's awesome. And Deirdre says, yes, sir. You don't need to sir me. I am an, you know, I'm an officer in one of those reenactment army things. You know, they reenact battles and stuff like that. So I'm in a 101st Airborne Division reenactment company, and there's about 50 or 60 of us in that company, and I'm an officer there. I'm a first lieutenant. It's quite good fun, actually. I get to wear the whole, you know, fairly accurate 101st Airborne gear and everything. It's really good fun. I like doing that. Yeah, so we reenact various battles and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's kind of unimportant nonsense that you don't really need to pay any attention to. But yeah, I'm one of my hobbies, one of my passions is military history. So I do a lot of study on combat tactics and that kind of thing. So I have looked at lots of World War II and World War I battles and studied the battlefield tactics and what was good, what was not good, and you know the impact that had on the particular combat action, that kind of stuff. It's nerdy, geeky stuff for people that have no friends, and that's me. Chris says, if I'm confined to mixing in headphones for the time being, you suggested mixing in mono. What other strategy would you suggest to compensate for false sense of stereo field? I advocate mixing in mono whether you have speakers or headphones or not. It really doesn't matter. Mixing in mono has a lot of benefits. The biggest benefit is that it makes you work harder with EQ to separate the individual elements of your mix. So, for example, if you've got multiple guitars in a rock song, let's say you've got 5 or 6, maybe more guitars in a rock song, automatically your kind of instinct is, hey, the way to separate them is to put 4 of them that way, 4 of them that way. And that's how you separate them. Well, in the stereo field, sitting where you're sitting in the sweet spot, that sounds great. It really does. However, here's a thing to consider about mixing in mono. And it's this. A lot of people do listen using earbuds, and they are stereo. So there is an argument there for stereo is really important. Well, I'm going to come back to the importance of stereo in just a second, because you can actually get a much better, much wider stereo spectrum in your mix by mixing in mono. And I'm going to explain why in just a second. All right, so here it is. A lot of people do listen to music on earbuds, but not everybody does. It's only it's still only a relatively small percentage that actually use earbuds to listen to music or headphones. A lot of people still listen on stereo equipment, hi-fis, that kind of thing. Or they've got a smart TV and they use the speakers built into their smart TV. Now, here's the thing. How many people will actually sit in the equilateral triangle between your speakers and yourself, with yourself at the apex of that equilateral triangle, which is the sweet spot for the stereo spectrum? How many people actually sit there and listen to music for fun? Most people don't. Most people will have their music on, and they will be one side of the lounge, or they may be even down the hallway, or they may even be in the kitchen. Audio bounces off surfaces. And most people don't listen, they don't acoustically treat their listening environment unless they're really, really an audio geek. Most people won't. Most people will they'll just put they'll a lot of people, they tuck their little hi-fi system onto a shelf, a wooden shelf in a book cabinet that's tucked away in a corner. And then they wonder why they get so much bass. Why am I getting so much bass? Yeah, that book cabinet is wood. It's resonating wonderfully. Oh, and it's also in the corner. That's where bass builds up. So that's why you got a lot of bass. But then the sound is coming out of those speakers, and it's bouncing off every reflective surface that there is. Bare walls, parallel walls, windows, mirrors, the works. So by the time all of that bouncing around, plus the direct sound from the speakers gets to your ears, it is by and largely collapsed to mono. So if you're listening in the kitchen and the speakers are in the far left corner of your lounge, and if you were to trace a line to where you are in the far right corner, diametrically opposed to where the speaker source, the sound source is, that is going to have bounced, plus the direct sound coming out the speakers as well. You're hearing the reflections and the direct sound together, and it is collapsed to mono at that point. Here's the thing. If you've not got really good separation between the elements of your mix, then what will happen is you will find that some of those elements are getting lost in the mix when it comes to your ears in mono, because you've got some phase cancellation or you've got some frequency masking between the different elements of your mix. Like I said, going back to 7, 8, 9 guitars, you need to separate out each of those guitars with EQ. You can do it in stereo. Absolutely, you can. You can do that EQing in stereo, and you can do that EQing in mono. Now, here's the thing. If you do it in mono, all of those guitars are going to be concertinaed on top of each other. So all 8 of those guitars, bam, are coming right up the middle now. And so what you need to do to be able to make sure each one of those 8 or 9 guitars is individually discernible in your mix, you got to use EQ. You got to use complementary EQ, where you're boosting on one guitar, you're cutting on another at similar frequency points. Those kind of ideas are critical to being able to get that separation. If you're doing it in mono, it makes you work harder than if you're doing it in stereo, and it makes you pay attention to the detail until you've really, really got it. And then you can flip back out to stereo, and you will find that when you flip back out to stereo with your guitars all panned where you want them, with all of that EQ, all of that detailed EQing done, you will find that those guitars sound amazing. They sound so much better than if you'd just done the mix just in stereo on its own. So there's the thing. So, this applies to, if your music is going to be played over the speaker system in a shopping mall, again, that sound is going to come to your ears in mono. If you're in a restaurant, doesn't matter where all the speakers are located, it's still going to come to your ears in mono. So your mix had better sound awesome in mono if you want it to sound incredible in stereo. So I hope that answers that question about mixing in mono, Chris. I know it kind of wasn't entirely 100% that question, but yes, the good thing about headphones is that they take out the room. So, if you've not got a treated room, the best thing you can do for yourself is get yourself a really good set of flat headphones. I use these, the PreSonus HD7s. They are really good. They are semi-open backed, which is great for mixing, because you don't really want closed back headphones for mixing. You want fully open or semi-open, to be honest, and that just allows some of the bass response to come out of the backs of the headphones, and you get a really nice flat response. That's what you want from mixing headphones. You want the mixing headphones to tell you the truth about your mix, just like your speakers. You want good speakers that are going to tell you the truth about the mix, and they're not going to lie to you. with kind of like their own little frequency curve or what have you. So yeah, so mixing in mono is great whether you're in a treated room with speakers or an untreated room with headphones. Mike says 500 GB SSD for system and apps, 1 terabyte for videos, 4 terabyte for Studio One songs and samples, 2 terabytes for backup. That's your system, and that's a fantastic system, Mike. That really is a fantastic system. I know some people that, you know, they've got like several drives stacked together and they're all kind of in a RAID configuration, and effectively it gives them like 12 to 15 terabytes worth of storage, which is just that's incredible. You're never going to run out. So let me go back through and see if there are any more questions. Okay, Chris says, indeed, you answered it competently. Good. I like to be competent, and I like it when people say that I'm being competent. That's very cool. You took notes, however. I'm going to need to revisit until I guess. That's fine. You know, feel free to keep revisiting this issue until, you know, kind of like the light bulb completely goes on and it's like a lighthouse in your forehead, so to speak. I'm not being literal. So yeah, so I hope that really helps. Any more questions? Mike says, I'm taking no chance after my crash last December. You know what? I really don't blame you. Absolutely, Mike. It's devastating to lose a drive and lose all of the work that's on that. So I'm with you, Mike. And to be honest, I should be better at backing up than I really am, considering, you know, I work professionally with clients. Not everybody here on this stream does work professionally with clients, but I do. And, you know, if I lost a client's work, I would be stuffed. I'd have an unhappy client. Client would want refund. So yeah, I don't want to get going into that, really. Recordingstudio9.com, that would be my good friend Vatcha down under in Australia. He says, I say, get a reasonable set of open or semi-open headphones and train your ears. Absolutely. Yep, headphones and ear training is absolutely the best thing you can do. Whether you've got speakers, whatever, whether you've got a treated room or not. And Deer Creek Audio is here, and he says, my 2 cents, digital doesn't exist unless it's in 2 places minimum. Yeah, definitely. You've got to back up, folks. You absolutely have. I mean, I have the facilities for backing up. I'm a little bit lazy and a little bit forgetful, so I don't always do it, but I should. I should regularly back up my D drive. I just don't do it often enough, and I should, so that, you know, I can always retrieve song files. So that's on me. I need to learn this as much as everybody else, really. So that serves as a really good reminder for me. Chris says, I run off a Mac Mini. This is pertinent. I may need to chat you up on this subject as well, he says to Mike. That's cool. And Vatcha continues. He says, make sure you listen to commercial songs regularly. Definitely listen to songs that you know and love and enjoy for pure listening pleasure. Listen to them in your studio environment, on your speakers and on your headphones, because that's a really, really good way to help train your ears as to what a really good, solid professional mix and professional master sounds like in your environment and on your speakers. And Deer Creek says, especially Van Halen. Yeah, especially, you know, even if you're not a Steely Dan or Donald Fagen fan, I would recommend that you download Donald Fagen's The Nightfly album from 1982, I think it was, because that album won multiple awards for its mixing and mastering, and for the recording engineering by Roger Nichols and the mixing by Elliot Shiner. And I think it's Scott Hull who did the mastering on that as well. So definitely, I recommend, you know, even if you're not a big fan of the music, you don't have to be. The music is kind of irrelevant. It's the quality of the mix and the quality of the mastering work which is essential to, you know, to knowing what really good music sounds like in your space, on your speakers, on your headphones, you know, and how it sounds good, because then that's a reference for you. If you know what your room sounds like with fantastic, extremely well-produced music in your room, then that's going to help you measure your mixes against that standard in your room, which means it'll help you take your music up to the next level, take your mixes up to the next level of accuracy with EQ and compression and panning and, you know, front to back, top to bottom, you know, the 3D stereo field. Vachu says, listen to top 10 songs from around the world in multiple languages. Yeah, listen to as wide a broad cross-section of music as possible in your space. Providing, really, in my opinion, providing the mixes and the mastering is outstanding. Doesn't matter what style of music it is. Dickery says, I asked on the forums, do you know what trim is on the fader ports? Supposedly an automation mode for DAW other than Studio One. Makes me want to remove the button. You could remove the button. I'm just looking at my fader port just now. I don't see a trim button on here. Not on the fader port original. Maybe on the fader port 8 or the fader port 16. And that could well be part of the Mackie and or Huey protocols. For people that have those fader ports that use them with Logic, Cubase, Pro Tools, Sonar, whatever platform they use. It may well be that that button does something on those DAWs that it doesn't do in Studio One. To be honest, I wouldn't bother removing the button. What do I have? I have read, write, touch, and off on my fader port original. And yeah, those are extremely useful for automation. But I don't have trim. But trim basically would be if you want to trim a particular section of your automation without affecting the rest of the automation. So like if you've got a section between point A, point B, and you want that point A and point B to be up or down, you can trim it. I need to demonstrate probably. Dickery says, no, I just don't like things on equipment that don't work, even if I don't use it. OCD. Well, you know, to me, if a button is redundant on an item, then I ignore it. I ignore it. I just don't bother with it. But I mean, to be honest, the fader port original has every button that I need on it. Really, I don't think there's a button there that I don't use. Yeah, I don't think there's anything there that I don't use on there. But yeah, you could put a piece of tape over it if you don't want to see it. Put black tape over it so that you know it camouflages it. You could do anything like that. Deer Creek, to be honest, if you don't use the button, if it bothers you. Chris says, especially listen to Stephen Wilson. I don't know who that is, but yeah, you just. The point here is not what particular artist you listen to, it's the quality of the mix. If the mix is outstanding, you know, you're looking at trying to get hold of music that the mixing has won awards, or the mastering has won awards, or the recording engineering has won awards. Those are the kind of things you want to have regularly playing in your studio when you're not mixing. Although sometimes I would suggest have it as a reference in your song. In your song session, have a reference track there, you know, something that's similar genre, similar instrumentation, have that in there, and you know that will keep you on the straight and narrow. I know you're being sarcastic, Deer Creek. I know. I'll just have to get the other door. That would be one solution, maybe a less than elegant solution, and maybe more costly, but you could certainly do that. So we got 22 people in here right now. And I would appreciate it if every single one of you could hit the thumbs up button for me down below. That would be really helpful for me, and I would appreciate it greatly. I'm assuming that everybody that is on this stream now is a subscriber to my channel. If not, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell notification thingy, because then that means you're going to know when my next video comes out or when my next stream is. So, which is really going to be important if you want to follow what I do, and if you think that I've got something to say that is of value to you. Another thing you could do is in the description below, there's a link there to sign up to my email list, and that is something that I am working on getting up and running, and a whole bunch of emails are going to start going out regularly to people that are on there, so you'll get content that you won't get anywhere else, not on my website, not on Facebook, not on my Facebook page, just for you guys that are on my email list. And you'll also get in advanced notice of new records that I make, new products that I produce, and when they're going to come out and that kind of thing. You'll get advanced notification of those things. And I may even drop you a little link so that you can go and pre-order if that's something that takes your fancy, if that's something you're into. If you like pre-ordering for things, yeah, we can probably do something like that. And you'll also get up-to-date news and information about services that I provide, and you'll get the best mixing tips and mastering tips and recording and songwriting and arranging tips that I can possibly give you. And as if all of that wasn't enough, the other thing that you will get is you'll get an advanced notice of new things and new features on my website, which there are going to be a lot coming over the next maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Vatcha asks, can we also get pizza delivered? Afraid not. If only I had an affiliation link with someone like Pizza Hut, that could be done. Sadly not. But yes, I love pizza as well, or Chinese food. Coffee mug. Actually, Dear Creek, you've just given me an idea. I'm wearing, as you might be able to see, a Jonny Lipsham Studios t-shirt. That's the front. On the back, let me see if I can show you the back. I might not be able to. I will try. No, you're not going to be able to see it very well. But on the back, it's got my the banner from my website on the back, and it says jonlylipshamstudios.co.uk. If you're interested in one of these, and if there's a lot of people that are interested, then maybe I might actually start selling some of these. And maybe I might actually have a think about getting some mugs and things like that designed as well. So if you're interested in having Jonny Lipsham Studios merchandise, if enough people are up for it, then I'll start producing it. Yes, I might use Vistaprint. This is a Vistaprint t-shirt. And it actually worked out really well. And Dear Creep and Vatch are chatting, which is cool. So yeah, so subscribe to that email list. Okay, I got some updates for you, some news. I think a lot of you know about the fact that we're probably going to be moving. Well, we were shortlisted for a house down the road, which was a really nice house. Actually, we all really liked it. However, there was a lot of interest in it. A lot of people applied for it, and it was a bit dog eat dog. The upshot is we were unsuccessful. We got beat by other prospective tenants. So we are a little bit back to the drawing board. Hang on, something from Chris that got held for review. Okay, Chris, that's a good idea. I'd have to get new designs done. So yeah, so we're unsuccessful with that house, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame because we all really quite liked it. Kids were particularly upset by it because, you know, they'd kind of picked out the room and decided where they were going to go and everything else. So yeah, a bit of a shame. But so our search for a new house continues. Landlord cannot kick us out, so, you know, we're not necessarily under that kind of pressure. at the moment until he decides that he wants to, you know, kick up a stink. In which case he's not got a leg to stand on, because legally we are in a better position than he is. So there we go. On the subject of VIP, seeing as Chris has just raised the subject of VIP, the VIP members area is in beta at the moment. I think I said this to you last week that it was in beta. It's still in beta. Progress is really, really good. It's going extremely well. And we are looking to launch that very, very soon, very shortly, in fact. I think maybe, possibly, I will need to talk to Rich about this, but I'm pretty confident that, you know, this time next week, next stream, I might even be able to give you a date. Hopefully. So keep everything crossed that that we can actually have a date for that. So soon or shortly. Yeah, very soon and very shortly, in fact. Both. Gotcha. So yeah, so that's something that is very, very exciting for me personally. Very exciting to be working on that, and to take my business forward in that kind of direction. I think is just going to be so cool for me, so cool for my family, and even cooler and better for you guys that sign up. So hopefully I will have more firm details maybe next week. So yeah, so that's where we're at. So we're already on the 16th of April here. Well, it's rolled over to the 16th of April here, but it's still the 15th for you guys in the States. So we're pretty confident that over the course of the next 2-3 weeks or so, we will have the VIP ready for launch. And when that happens, folks, I will be doing a special stream where I will be showing you what the VIP members area looks like. And I'll be showing you how you can sign up for it and how much it costs and that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's kind of where that is at. And it's going to be really, really cool. I'm going to be working very, very hard on getting content up there and ready for you guys so that when you go and you are the first people through the door, you know where the sofa is, you know where the coffee machine is, you know where the bathroom is, and you know where the TV is and all of that kind of stuff. So there will be content up there for you guys. It's going to be a very interactive place. That's the idea, is that it will be a place where we can all meet, we can all hang out, we can all share ideas, we can all share our mixes, we can, you know, we can all do all of that kind of fun stuff that is kind of harder to do on Facebook. I mean, one of my first ideas was that, you know, I'd have like a Facebook group where, you know, people can share all their mixes and stuff like that. But, you know, with the way that Facebook groups, you know, when you post something, everything just gets pushed further down, and, you know, it's not great, and it's not searchable. So it doesn't really work out particularly. So yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff coming for that, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that next week, providing we're at that point. So I'll let you know. Deer Creek says, make us some Pso Midi Packs. Well, there are some music loops that come with the Pso that are pretty good. They're all right. Some of them are better than others. And you can switch up the instrumentation if you want to with those. Maybe I will make some Pso Midi Packs. I'm going to have to see kind of like what kind of audience there is for those. Yeah, you got the music loops and you want more. Yeah, well, I'll have a think about that, and I'll maybe do a little bit of research. I'll maybe put something out on Facebook and see, you know, kind of how many people are up for it. Just Bob says mouse pads with your logo would be awesome. Now there's an idea, mouse pads. Yeah. After 30, Deer Creek says 5 are okay. I think the rest are corny. Yeah, just Bob. I don't know why you just deleted that, because I think that's great. Actually, mouse bats with my banner on it would be cool. If folks want those, then just, you know, make your requests known. Send me emails, and the more emails I get on those, then the more likely I am to consider that they're going to be worthwhile producing, because it will cost money to make them, and I want to make sure that everybody has good value for money. So yeah, and Vatcha is having to leave. He says, time for a good night from me. Vatcha, thank you so much for dropping by, mate. It was really good to have you. I know there's a good 11 hours or so time difference between us, so awesome. Thanks for coming. Enjoy your lunch. Dear Creek says, Nord giveaway. Yeah. That's funny. I like that. That's a great joke. Yeah, I've had this since 2006, and it's awesome. And I don't think I've ever updated the operating system on it. I don't think I've ever updated the library on it. To be honest, it does everything I need to do and more. So, yeah, why bother updating it? It works. So it's great, and it sounds great. If you were on Johnny Gibe's stream the other night, when he was doing his acoustic guitar thing, I just decided quite impulsively to send him a Rhodes track, just for fun, just to see, how quickly we could kind of like do that kind of collaboration over YouTube. And I just thought, yeah, it'd be quite good fun to do that. And then I sent him a Hammond part, because Just Bob had suggested it. So I thought, okay, why not? So I just knocked together a quick Hammond part on this guy over here. You got a Rhodes hidden in another room? Yeah, it's in the lounge. And it's a proper suitcase Rhodes electric piano with the speaker cabinet and everything. But this time of night, it's really, it's not the best to try and mic it up. So I basically just went straight out of the output jack on the Rhodes, and ran long cable all the way through into my interface over here. I've got some really long cables that I used to use for gigging. So I thought, hey, that's a good way to do it. And then I've got the Studio One remote app on here. And so I could operate Studio One from in the lounge. It's all on the same network. Use Studio One on the lounge here, hit the record button, play, job done. And it worked like a treat. And Mike says that was awesome. Yeah, it was great fun to do it. And I think Johnny has all the tracks in, and he's got a couple of other tracks from Jamming Jay as well, some guitar tracks and stuff. And it apparently sounds really, really good. So I think he's going to kind of maybe revisit that on another stream. Decrease says, I've got a Leslie I need to ship to you. Used it on guitar, not now anymore. Well, you know what? Leslie's are huge. It would be phenomenally expensive to ship that. And I'm not sure how well it would survive, to be honest. But I guess maybe once we're moved. I'm not shutting down the idea. That'd be lovely. But yeah. Diego says, what audio interface do you use in capital letters? I use the AudioBox USB, the very first one, the first generation AudioBox USB. And it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. It's never caused me any trouble whatsoever. However, I am hoping to get something else, hopefully in the next few weeks, which would be great if I could do that, if I could get that. So I'm looking at maybe the PreSonus Studio 1824, which would be really cool. It looks fantastic. It's way more inputs and outputs than I will ever need in this room, but I'm trying to think, further down the line of a bigger room. And, being able to mic up my drum set, for example. That'd be cool. Dietrich says, yes, I had lyrics in my head, almost messed up my session. Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe you should send Johnny a vocal track. That would be cool, because I was going to do a vocal track for it. But yeah, go ahead, Dietrich. send it to him. That'd be awesome. Deer Creek says, hey, I know this is not Studio One, but Cakewalk by BandLab is free. Yes, it is. And BandLab may do something for collaborating and deal with ownership, copyright, etc. Well, yeah, they might. I know you can do live collaboration with Cubase, and I think you can also do it with Pro Tools 2018 as well. It would be awesome if that could be implemented into Studio One as well. I guess what we'll have to do is we'll have to go to the Presonus forum and put it on the Studio One feature request thread there and upvote it. The more people that vote these things up, the more chance that the development team in Hamburg, Germany, are going to implement them into the next version of Studio One, or a later version of Studio One further down the line. Who knows? Diego says, why do you like Presonus so much? Well, pretty much because I first encountered Presonus in 2013 when I went and visited a studio the other side of town, and they had some Presonus interfaces, and they had a mixer. And they just sounded fantastic. They weren't using Studio One, but they had Presonus gear, and I loved the sound of Presonus gear. And I thought, I need to reach out to this company and just kind of check them out a bit. So I did that. And then I found Jonny Geib on YouTube, and he was using, obviously, Studio One. And I thought, Studio One looks really, really cool. At the time, I was using Cubase 6.5, and it was Crashaholics Anonymous. It would crash all the time. I would crash Cubase maybe 5, 6, 7 times every session, every day, and it was just making doing any session work or doing any mixing a nightmare. It would make everything 5, 6, 7, 8 times longer than it should. And nah. I've been using Cubase since 1989, for goodness sake, all the way through to 2013. So it wasn't just that I impulsively just go, I've had a crash, I'm off to another DAW. No, it wasn't that. It was much more about I was looking for a way out of Cubase, because Cubase was all I'd ever known, all I'd ever used since going digital in 1989, having been analog and tape machines and mixing consoles and that kind of thing, which I was before. So it was the only DAW I'd ever had, and it was infuriating me. So I was looking for a way out, saw Jonny Geib's videos, saw that Studio One looked very attractive, and I thought, I wonder who else is using Studio One. So I did a bit of a search, and that is where I came across Joe Gilder. Joe had switched to Studio One from Pro Tools, from being a long-time Pro Tools user. He had switched to Studio One, and I reached out to Joe. Joe and I have subsequently become very good friends. Jonny and I are extremely good friends. He's pretty much my right-hand man, and I owe Jonny a massive debt of gratitude, because I probably wouldn't be halfway where I am now if it wasn't for Jonny's input and Jonny's encouragement, actually, because doing things like videos scared the heck out of me, because I'm a very shy individual, and certainly doing live streams would have just been unthinkable. But Jonny really encouraged me and helped me a lot to deal with that side of me, and so here we are now, and I'm a lot better at it. And you know what? I'm a lot better person as a result, thanks to Jonny Geib and Joe Gilder in particular. And so that led me to actually go and purchase Studio One. So I did. I purchased Studio One, and I joined the Presonus Studio One Facebook group. And it was there that I made contact with Rick Nakvi, who is the Vice President of Sales at Presonus. And out of some conversations with him, slowly over a period of, a few years, maybe 3 years or so, a relationship between myself and Presonus began to develop, which is very, very cool. It's just been fantastic working with Presonus. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not endorsed by them officially in any sense, but we do have a good relationship. We have a good working relationship, and I talk to those guys regularly. The guys over in Hamburg, I talk to fairly regularly as well. So, you know, we talk together, that kind of stuff. But, you know, there's no official endorsement or anything like that. But yeah, so that's why I like PreSonus, because I think they make the best audio gear around, and Studio One is just awesome. And that's an understatement. So let me see. Deer Creek says, do you think PreSonus has a sound, or just using that as a phrase about their nice equipment? I think they do. I think, you know, if you were to compare PreSonus hardware to Allen and Heath, or trying to think of some other manufacturers, Yamaha and Steinberg, Focusrite, I think PreSonus definitely do have quite a distinctive sound to their gear. I don't know how they get that. I don't know how they create that. There's got to be something in the electronics and something in the manufacturing process, I suspect, that gives them something unique, I think. Whether they sound better or not, well, that's kind of a personal taste thing. Some people say that, you know, Focusrite sounds better than PreSonus, or Steinberg sounds better than PreSonus. That's not really what I'm about here, because that's, you know, you're getting into personal taste issues. Because for me, PreSonus gear sounds better than most, but, you know, that's going to create arguments here, and I don't really want that. You know, because we've all got our, everyone's ears are different. Everyone's, you know, resonant cavities in their head and in their chest and everything else are different. How people perceive different frequencies is very different. So we're all going to have a different perception on what's good and what isn't. Mike says, Diego, it's the only DAW I've used for more than 6 months. Best one out there, in my opinion. I tried Pro Tools, Ableton, FL Studio, and Reason, and Studio One hands down. Yeah, I would agree with that. Deer Creek says, Studio One is very nice. Pro Tools is just a standard, and it ends there. Sonar is very nice as well. Yeah, Pro Tools has dominated the DAW market for a lot of years, pretty much because, other than Cubase, it largely has been the only real serious DAW. Now, I'm not saying that Sonar isn't, because Sonar is you know, grew up at the same time as Cubase and Pro Tools. So, you know, they are, you know, those three are the grandparents of every DAW that exists now. So, you know, every DAW that exists now owes a lot of its technology, a lot of its ideas, a lot of the concepts to Pro Tools, to Cubase, and to Sonar. You know, there is no doubt about that, really. Those are the three oldest DAWs that are around. And for whatever reason, because of the way Pro Tools handles audio, and, you know, its particular way of doing that, and its particular way of plugin management and that kind of thing, won a lot of engineers' hearts, and it became the de facto standard. Steinberg didn't really try particularly hard to compete with it on the, you know, the very top professional echelons. Don't know why they didn't, but they didn't. And so that's why, you know, pretty much most major label studios are Pro Tools studios. However, I'm sure that over the course of time, that will change. And we may well find that it's not quite so cut and dried in a few years' time for Pro Tools as they think it is. So there we go. Let's see. There's no comparison between Studio One and Logic. Yeah, I had a little flirtation with Logic before I got into Studio One, and it was okay. Didn't really excite me on any level, particularly. So it was very easy for me to get out of. Sorry, I just thought I heard something in the back of the room there. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah, I see a lot of PreSonus gear in churches as well. except they don't offer a mixer with 54 faders and so on. Well, they don't. You're quite correct, but who knows what the future might hold? You never know. For the longest time, they didn't offer a 32 one, but now they do. Studio Live Series 332. So there you go. And of course, there's the first one, the first Studio Live. There's a 32 channel version of that, but for whatever reason, they stopped at 32. Who knows what the future might hold? There might be something much bigger down the line. Studio Live mixers are giving Pro Tools a run for their money. Well, yeah, certainly with door control at the moment. Dickery says Pro Tools is the only DAW, besides starting it for the most part, that allows massive hardware to use in the studio. The Avid control surfaces, which I know nothing about. Yeah, that's definitely true. A lot of the very first, large scale control surfaces were created with and for Pro Tools and their HD system. Chris says, I must have a mouse pad with your face and the 3 minions you posted. Really? If you must, I could probably come up with something. I could certainly send you the picture, and you could kind of make your own mouse mat if you wish. That's the funniest request I think I've ever had in my entire life. Where are we at? Oh gosh, we're 10 minutes over. Well, that's okay. I'm having a lot of fun here. Let's see. Most non-techie musicians call any DAW Pro Tools. I hear that a lot. Anything in the computer is Pro Tools, kind of like Xerox. Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny you should say that, because here in the UK, there was a vacuum cleaner product made by a company called Hoover. And, it was the dominating product on the vacuum cleaning market at the time. So the Hoover product became synonymous with the activity of vacuum cleaning. And in fact, if you were to go to, I think, the Oxford English Dictionary, you would find the verb to hoover, which essentially means to vacuum clean, but using the product made by Hoover. But yeah, so vacuum cleaning and the product became synonymous. So, quite oftentimes, if you were here in the UK, you'd hear people talk about, oh, I'm going to go and hoover the lounge. Well, that's because of the product. Hoover was so good that it became the industry standard, and everybody had one. Now, of course, there's a lot more competition with Dyson and all sorts of other vacuum cleaners that but it's funny, we still talk about it. We still talk about the process of hoovering, even though we're using a different product now. And, Hoover don't necessarily make particularly wonderful vacuum cleaners anymore. The market's kind of been dominated by Dyson of late. So, not that I'm an expert on that particular market, but yeah, similar thing. Yeah, a lot of people, they talk about a DAW, they just call it Pro Tools, because Pro Tools is synonymous with a DAW to some people. I read someplace that Avid has a new CEO. Yes, I read that too, Bobby, and I think you may well be right. Oh, that jumped. My chat just jumped. Just Bob says, from my limited experience, Studio One seems the most user-friendly and most concerned about feedback from the users. Absolutely, I could not agree more with you. Robert Overbeek says, I'll go back to Cakewalk as soon as I spend my $3,000 and not use Gibson with the body shape like the United States. Wow, $3,000. Good grief. On a Gibson shaped like the United States. Wow, that's a lot of money to spend on a guitar. Well, Robert, you know what? Studio One is, in my opinion, extremely user-friendly, and the workflow is extremely fast. And, a lot of what you would have to do by yourself, by the user in a platform like Facebook, like routing buses and that kind of thing, and sends and all of that kind of stuff, that you actually have to do in Pro Tools by opening up various menus and going, okay, I'm going to use that bus, and then you connect that to that bus, and the two are now connected. Studio One does that by itself. You just right-click, say, add a bus for selected track. Bing, done. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to make sure that bus is connected to that bus, and now the audio now passes through that. I mean, you know, I think this is probably why Pro Tools appeals to people who are really, really engineer minded, and they're, you know, in their head they have circuit designs and they're passionate about that kind of thing. That's why it appeals to them, because they like connecting that to that, that to that, to create the audio circuit, and there it is done. Whereas, you know, a lot of people who are musicians, who are songwriters, as well as engineers and producers, find Studio One so appealing because they don't have to do any of that. That's all done in the background by the DAW itself, and you can just go right click, bus, done. Okay, great. Now I can put my bus compressor on there. Job done. You know, in about 7, 8, 9 seconds at the very most. There you go. You've got your bus and your compressor on it, just like that. Might take a little bit longer, a few more mouse clicks in Pro Tools or Cubase. Certainly takes a few mouse clicks in Cubase. Doesn't really in Studio One, just maybe 2, maybe 3 at the very most. Chris says, already took a screenshot and have it on a flash drive and may send you one. That's funny. Oh dear, chat's jumped again. Let's see, is Magic's a European company? Aren't they in Europe? I think they probably are in Germany. Same in US with band-aids. They are adhesive bandages. That is correct, yeah. We call them plasters, but it's the same thing. Why we call them a plaster, I'm not quite sure, because they're not made of plaster. Doesn't make sense. I don't know. Weird conventions. Robert Overbeek says, me neither, but I'm a Studio One fan now and play Ibanez. Well, that's cool. I have an Ibanez right there. AGR 70. Very, very nice. Or Kleenex for facial tissues. Yes. Anyway, folks, we are 15 minutes over time. And Bobby says, if a dummy like me can use Studio One, anyone can use it. You know what? I think there is a large degree, Bobby, to which we are all dummies. To one degree or another. You know, it's like, you know, every one of us in this stream is walking down the same road. It's just that some folks left a lot sooner, a lot earlier, a lot longer before we did. So they are kind of little specks on the horizon. And then there's you, and then there's a few people that are kind of at the same point on the road as you, and you can wave to them and say hi, and they wave back and say hi. And sometimes you may well even stop, shake hands, and have a chat. And then, you can turn around and you can see that there are folk all the way down the road going back into infinity in the distance. Just as much as there are specks on the horizon ahead of you, there are specks on the horizon behind you. And there are more and more and more and more and more people joining this road at the same time. So, even if, Bobby, you feel like the most beginner of all beginners and the most novice of all novices, I can guarantee you, Bobby, that there are people who are even more novice than you are. And so you have something that you can teach. Whoops, punch the microphone. You have something that you can teach those folks that are behind you, that have just, they've just stepped onto the road for the very first time. And they're like, okay, how do I work this thing? And you're Bobby Booth. You've been using it for a little while now. And you've entered some mixed contests. In fact, you won some mixed contests. You've got something that you can tell them. So there you go. Are you using 2 computers for your live stream? No, I'm using one. But I'm using my laptop over here so that when I'm doing something like I'm showing my screen on Studio One, I can still see what you guys are seeing. So I have YouTube playing on my laptop over here. So the other screen is not connected to my computer at all. It's just literally just playing the stream, just like you're watching it now. There's just a delay between what I see on my screen with Google Hangouts and what actually comes through on YouTube. But what that means is that when I'm showing my whole screen and I'm showing Studio One on my screen in front of me here, it means I can still see what you're seeing, and I can make sure that you're seeing the right things. And I can also follow the chat. And, you know, if you're asking a specific question about something I'm pointing at in Studio One, I can make sure that I see that question and I don't miss it. So there we go. We're all bozos on this bus, says Deer Creek. Absolutely. I can't even merge MIDI clips consistently. Yeah, well, you just hit the G key. You know, select one clip, hold shift, select the other. The two should be highlighted. Press G, bing, merged. Should be as simple as that. All right, folks, I am going to knock it off right there because it is 1:20 in the morning. And I've got a couple of other things to do before I finally crawl to my bed if I don't fall asleep en route. So thank you so much to all 21 or 22 of you that were on this stream. I thank you very much for your time, and I thank you very much for all of your great questions. Keep them coming. If I didn't get to your question on this stream, then please do send me an email at johnny@jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and I will try and get an answer to you, either in written form, or maybe I might even, you know, make a video if that is going to be easier, and I'll just post it up as an unlisted video on YouTube, and I'll send you the link in an emailed reply, something like that. All right, so enjoy, folks, the rest of your evening, and I will see you around on the Facebook groups and all of that fun stuff, and of course on Songwriting Simplified with Jonny on Wednesday. I will be there, and I'm sure you'll see me around. I've got a whole bunch of videos backlogged, ready to go up live to the channel. They will start going up this week. So expect to see the final couple of installments of Studio One from scratch. Those will be coming up over the course of this week, and maybe I might even actually get 2 videos in on that this week. And then I'll be starting the next series after that, which I will not announce for now. So yeah, so sign up for the email list, keep an eye on my website, and when I'm ready to launch the VIP, you guys will know about it. Believe me, I will be shouting it from every rooftop I possibly can. All right, folks, have a very good night. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.